wife, and they become one flesh. Both the man and his wife were naked, yet felt no shame. So it's important to understand that sex while you're married is not a sin. In fact, sex was created by God for the context of marriage.
Yeah.
It is fine in the context of marriage. In fact, Paul, I think, talks about it in Corinthians somewhere else, where it says in 1 Corinthians chapter 7, verse 5, "Do not deprive one another, except when you agree for a time to devote yourselves to prayer. Then come together again. Otherwise, Satan may tempt you because of your lack of self-control." And that's, sex is important in marriage.
Right.
Crinkled up my Bible. But yeah, and the reason why marriage is so important is because the Bible often equates, Jesus' relationship with the church to marriage. That Jesus was married to the church. And we talked about this a little bit in Brent's episode.
Yeah.
Where he talked about, as a husband, I need to be willing, I need to lay down my life for my wife, like Christ did for the church. And that's really significant.
Yeah.
It's supposed to show, it helps represent the gospel in that way. What are your thoughts, Robbie?
I mean, I agree.
Well, of course we agree. That's why we're talking about this. This is, based in the Bible, but, what are your thoughts on this?
This conversation?
Right, like how marriage is, used to represent Christ and the church, and the importance of that.
I think we need to, and I think everyone has stepped down from it, if you ever look.
What do you mean by step down?
People nowadays probably don't think of it as that.
As a way of, representing the gospel?
Yeah.
Right, and we've kind of cheapened marriage.
Yeah.
And we've... People have talked about marriage now as... purely if we take God out of it, which a lot of people have.
Yeah.
It's just a bad position to be in for the dude, because if something happens, if you have a divorce, you can lose a lot of your stuff.
Right. And
so we kind of cheapened what marriage is supposed to be, and what marriage is supposed to be is to help us represent the gospel. As it's related to Christ and the church. It also, I've talked to a lot about this with my dad, and one thing that he's also said is that it helps show God's love to children, because I've talked with my dad, and marriage is also to help your children grow up in an environment, and see God's love.
Yeah.
And we see that early, literally the first book of the Bible, that both man and woman were created in God's image. So aspects of God were given to man, aspects of God were given to women. And that's why it's important to, as it says, for a man... Both the man and... This is why a man leaves his father and mother and bonds with his wife, and they become one flesh. That's why it's important, because it's a way for us to see aspects of God, see God's love through combining the aspects given to men and women in marriage, unified as one flesh. And that's another... That's why marriage is important. So...